Thank you, Mayor. Well, I stand this evening because I'm appalled at the things that are taking place in the city government. I have a large and long history in this city and have invested a lot of time. I hate to see it trashed. My history in city government is 4 years on the city council in the 70s, 6 years on the city council in the 80s, mayor for 2 years, fire chief for 2 years or 3 years, paramedic, firefighter. A lot of time invested in this because I believe in the people and in the city. I was on the council when the council melted down, or when the city melted down in the 2011, 2012, at the financial thing. Some of the reasons for that was failure of council oversight, too many employees, there were 10 laid off at the time, financial mismanagement, lack of community support, lack of transparencies, and that plays into pretty much what we're doing now. The current situation is loss of community support, loss of credibility from the city council and the city administrator. People working outside their job descriptions, loss of credibility, sounds familiar, citizen trust, lack of administrator oversight, failure to follow the city charter. However, in the last couple of years, well, at least the last few years, we established a municipal court, improved city community relations. When I was mayor, my biggest thrust was the community, the citizens. What they wanted, they got, whether I wanted them or not. The thing about that sort of thing is that's how you establish trust. If they don't believe you, then forget it. Suggestions for the communities, for what I would suggest for the current situation, improve community relations. I would recommend a citizens ad hoc advisory committee for the council and the city. When things cool down, the ad hoc committee goes away. Increase transparency from the council and the city. You can see from the number of people here tonight, when we were going through our meltdown, we held our meetings in this high school auditorium to give people more room, and we had town hall meetings. I don't know if we've had a town hall meeting in the last 3 years at least. And those were kind of interesting, to say the least, for the council, because there were basically no holds barred, and people could say what they wanted within reason. I do know one guy called the mayor a Nazi, but that was out of control. But we didn't restrict what they were talking about.
Jerry?
Yes.
It's been 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Only one other thing. I'd like to see less confrontation from both sides of the coin. Thank you for your time.
Jim Coy?
Jim Coy, P.O. Box 122, Oakridge. In regards to the minutes from the last meeting, and on page 2 and the top of page 3, and it says, Susan said the matter of independent contractor's contract that was sent to Brenda Wilson at LCOG by the former mayor in January and asked her to comment on it. And she too agreed that MVHC, which I'm assuming is Michael V. Hansen Consulting, was an independent consultant. She said this was not done by our attorney, and Susan said she is speaking, oh, sorry, I was in conflict with Kathy at that time. It was sent to Brenda in January. This was done without the council's knowledge and without staff's knowledge, although it was the staff's knowledge now. So how is it the staff's knowledge now? So obviously you've looked at my private emails that I neglected to close out on my desktop computer in my office when I was the mayor. Brenda Wilson is a personal friend of mine, and it was not something that was done, you know, underhandedly. It was something that I was asking an opinion of a friend who happens to be an attorney, but also the director of LCOT. And I just find it, you know, it may not be illegal to look at my personal emails, but I find it to be highly unethical. You know, the only time I ever discussed things with Brenda Wilson was on my personal email, because again, we're friends. So, you know, I understand that everything on the mayor email is open, but when you start attacking my personal email, I have a problem with that. So, and she offered an opinion. She did not make a decision. She's not a judge. She's not, you know, she wasn't asked by the city. She was asked by a friend to offer an opinion, which she did.
Dennis Patterson.
Dennis Patterson, 47871 West 1st Street. That address in and of itself is unimportant. The fact that I live 1 block west of the high school is, however. It'll become apparent in a minute. I noticed on the agenda that one of the items tonight is water quality testing. I assume that's going to refer to testing the water at the wellhead, and somebody's bound to say, well, that's all that's legally required, so that's all we're going to do. I would suggest a more accurate test of what people are getting out of their faucets would be to pick half a dozen homes at random spaced around the city and go test the water that comes out of their faucets and see whether we're getting contamination from a well or from a holding tank or from a delivery main, something like that. At the bare minimum, I would hope that they would test the water that comes out of the drinking fountains at the high school and at the elementary school. Like I say, I just live 1 block west of the high schools, and on my side of the street, on my block, there's only 7 houses. 4 of them have cancer, including my wife. In fact, we bought our house from the estate of a guy who died from cancer in our house. So I figure 4 out of 7 is an awful high incident of cancer. And I would suggest that my proximity to the high school is any indication that there may be something carcinogenic in the water for the high school. So I would hope that if we can at least provide safe water for the entire citizenry, we should at least provide it for the children and grandchildren in this town. Thank you.
Lauren Hug.
Yes. On August 11th, we're having the Cascade Cake and Cask Festival uptown. It is a primary supporter of the food bank for the city. And even though we go on from 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. this year, I would like to ask help with a volunteer force. The volunteer force would be to help set up fencing, tables, chairs, canopies. Enjoy yourselves at the festival. At the end, take down so we can get the street cleared of, you know, any debris and everything by that time. And if you could help out, it would very much be appreciated, and the food bank would be very appreciative too. Water testing at what is called point of use. The National Primary Endowment Act does say water will be tested at point of use, drinking fountains, what have you. Too many times, point of use proves false negative. Let's say your kitchen sink, you wash your dishes, piece of food scrap gets caught up in your screen. That can decay. You can draw water off of that and get a false negative because it's coming from your plumbing and not from being delivered. So this testing point of use is very fine, but try very strict measures in doing it. And it is required.